Okay, hey guys, welcome back to Universes Beyond. If you're like me, you've picked up the Final Fantasy Revival Trance precon, and you sat here looking at both commanders thinking, which one do I actually want to build this deck around? Because the deck is a little bit all over the place, but what I do think it does pretty well is reanimate. And so I'm looking at both of these commanders and I'm thinking I don't really know which one I want to build around, because Terra's good. They both do good things and they work pretty well together. And so I'm trying to figure out which one I want to stick with, right? And which one I want to invest my time and actually fundamentally get the most fun out of. So when I build a deck, what I'm thinking is my playgroup is usually between the bracket 2, bracket 3 kind of region. We run a couple of kind of what they call game changers, but we also make sure that no one plays infinite combos. And the most boring thing I've seen people do with Celes online, and the only thing I see people speak about with Celes online, is that you can just jam it full of persist creatures. Essentially, Celes, when she comes in, she's gonna allow you to discard as many cards as you want, draw that many cards +1. Right, that's great. And wheeling is absolutely brilliant in Magic. But then the other thing that it allows you to do is whenever one or more creatures you control enter, if one of them enter from a graveyard or was cast from a graveyard, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Now, the busted thing about this in CEDH mainly is that if you jam it full with persist creatures, when the persist creature dies, so if you've got a sack outlet and it dies, it's going to come back immediately, and because persist puts a -1/-1 counter on it, Celes replaces that with a +1/+1 counter. It eliminates the -1/-1. And so you end up in an infinity loop. If you get something that can just continually sack the persist creature, it's an infinite, it's a combo, and there's lots of combo potential. For me, that's very boring, but there's loads of things that you can do with Celes, which is really, really fun. So you can do lots of +1/+1 shenanigans, but also the wheeling ability is not to be underrated. To be able to discard any number of cards, so you got full card selections there, and you're going to draw an additional card on top of that. That seems nuts to me. And then looking at Terra, so Terra is a really good target for Celes because you want to hold on to Terra if you draw into Terra, and being able to mill 2 cards, you want to get Terra down so you can just keep milling some big reanimator targets basically if you choose to go down Celes, which obviously that's the way because you clicked on the thumbnail. But also I'm going to keep Terra in the deck because it has reanimator built into it, and so being able to deal combat damage and then pay 2 and reanimate a creature with power 3 or less is very good. It's very, very good. So when I was looking at these cards, I was looking at, right, I want to play both of these in the deck realistically, but what one supplements the other better in the 99? And actually, I'm going to run Celes as the commander, and Terra is going to be in the 99 to support Celes. So I'll pop Terra over here, but as I always do, what I like to do is pull out the cards that I've got to hand that might support Celes. This might not be the best upgrade guide, but I think if you replace the cards which I'm suggesting today with the cards which I'm suggesting, it's an incredibly fun deck. I've played 4 matches with it now. It's incredibly fun. I've won 2 out of 4 with it, and it's just really, really good fun. So what are we trying to do? What we're trying to do is get some good reanimator targets. So Terra, what we want ideally is to have lots of reanimator targets that are power 3 or less, so that we can also keep using Terra's ability if we manage to get Terra down in the game. But we want to be able to get as many cards from our creatures, into the battlefield from the graveyard as possible, and we want to do that frequently. And so what we'll do is we'll start with the cards which I'm taking out of this deck, and then we'll talk about the cards which we're putting in. So I'll talk about each of these cards individually. So the first one is Pitiless Plunderer. So Pitiless Plunderer is it's an amazing card. Whenever another creature you control dies, create a treasure token. It's great. We're not going to be doing much sacrificing in this deck, and so for this, I would save this and put it in another deck because there's so many good aristocrat decks out there that you could put this into, but for this deck, it's a cut. Secondly, we've got a new card, Shadow, Mysterious Assassin. It's a 2 and a black, legendary creature, human assassin, 3/3. Death Touch. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, you may sacrifice another non-land permanent. If you do, draw 2 cards, and each opponent loses life equal to the mana value of the sacrificed permanent. Again, we don't really want to do sack shenanigans. We want to get as many creatures down as possible. We want to slam some +1/+1 counters on them, and we want to do some Mardu stuff and get through some damage. So this, again, can go. The next one. So I was a bit kind of on the fence about cutting this one, but in hindsight, yeah, it's 4 mana, so it's 2 black. It's got too much power in it, so it's 4 power, so you wouldn't be able to use Terra's ability to reanimate it. And there's not many assassins in this deck, particularly because I'm taking out most of the assassins. And so it's a menace. It's assassins you control have menace. That's great, not very great in this deck, but in one of the Assassin's Creed decks, that would be awesome. And whenever you attack with 1 or more legendary creatures, you may pay 2 and a black. If you do, return this card from your graveyard to the battlefield, tapped and attacking. So it needs to be in your graveyard for you to pay 2 and a black. Now, Celes is pretty good for that. I was on the fence again, like I say, because you can just mill this into your, discard this and then put it into your graveyard. But the thing is, you're only paying 1 less than if you were to cast it. It's not going to do that much for you, and you have to just have it in your graveyard. I'm going to take this out, but this is one that I think if you were on the fence and you didn't, there's one that you didn't really want to cut, that would be the one that I would leave in, because it's not necessarily bad for the deck. I just think there's some better options out there. Next, Angel of the Ruins. So I don't know why this is in this deck, to be honest with you. 5 colourless, whites, is 7 mana in total, just very expensive. Flying, when this enters, exile up to 2 target artifacts and or enchantments, and it's a 5/7. So it's a good body, but it's 7 mana. I think there's just better reanimated targets out there, and also it doesn't work with Terra, and so yeah, for me, I think this one can go. All right, next, Laughing Mad. So as an additional cost to cast a spell, discard a card. So it's good because it's allowing you to discard what you need to discard into your graveyard, but I think there's just better options out there. So for this, you're drawing 2 cards and you're discarding a card, so it's good, and it's got flashback. The thing is, there's much better options out there, and actually the 99 of this deck, the ones that are left in this deck, has a lot of mill built into it. So I think if you're looking at a draw engine, I would take this one out, because there's better draw engines out there. This is just the weirdest inclusion ever. I've no idea why they included this. It's 2 colourless, white, human soldier, 2/2. When this creature enters, you become the monarch, and when this creature enters, exile target creature an opponent controls until an opponent becomes the monarch. Yeah, it's really weird. I mean, you're going to exile a creature that someone controls. This deck, if you look at the deck list, it's got so many pieces of targeted removal or board wipe. You don't need another piece of targeted removal. I just don't understand why this one's in here, to be honest. Anyways, that's going to go. Morbid Opportunist. So again, I'm hoping that not many of our creatures are going to die. I want to get them down. I want to get some +1/+1 counters on them. They are going to die, but it's not built into our strategy. So again, I'm going to get rid of Morbid Opportunist. Like I say, it's a very good one that you can put into other aristocrat decks. But for this deck, it's just not great. We're not going to be doing much sacrificing, and so yeah, it can go. Next, Night's Whisper. It's a good card, right? There's nothing wrong with it. But again, for drawing cards, I think there's better options out there. So Night's Whisper, it's 1 and a black. You draw 2 cards and you lose 2 life. It's okay. I just want to get something on board that's got more draw potential. And actually, Celes has got card selection built into it. So I'm not too worried about this. I also want to get more cards into my graveyard so that I can reanimate things. So yeah, Night's Whisper is okay. It's not the best. All right, cool. And then Stitcher's Supply. It's a single black, 1/1. When this creature enters or dies, mill 3 cards. It's a good card, really good card. but I think there's better options out there for milling. I also think there's better options out there for card selection. So I think you don't really want to rely on this when it enters or dies. I mean, yeah, I'm kind of changing my mind on this one as I'm talking, to be honest. It's a good card for this deck. It's an okay card for this deck. For one single black mana, you're essentially going to get 6 cards into your graveyard. But yeah, I'm going to put this down here. I'm still going to cut it because I think there's better options that I'm going to show you in a minute. But actually, yeah, if there's a couple that you wanted to stick with, these two are pretty good. But not the best. So a couple of upgrades in a moment will show you what I mean. Next is Big Skull. It's an additional cost to cast a spell. So it's 4 mana to cost this, which is pretty heavy duty. And you have to discard a card, and then you draw 2 cards, and you create 2 treasure tokens. By the time you're casting this, right? So turn 4 probably is the earliest you're going to cast it. You're pretty, you need to be able to reliably get some card draw down or get some ramp. So yeah, it does a few things, but I think one-time effect. It doesn't have flashback or anything. This one's going to go as well. All right, and then Rune Grinder. This is a pretty cool card, but not for this deck. So it's 5 colorless and a red, so 6 mana in total. Menace, artifact creature token. God, I don't know what I'm saying. Artifact creature. When this creature dies, each player may discard their hand and draw 7 cards. So yeah, I think you're actually going to be benefiting other players, and I don't really like to do that. Although, you can discard your hand and draw 7 cards, but you're relying on this creature to die. And so unless you've got a sack outlet, you're going to just be trying to just kill it, right? And so a lot of the time your opponents are, unless they want to draw cards, they're kind of in control of that action, and I don't really like my opponents being in control of that sort of action. And so this one to me is okay. I do like mountain cycling being geared into it, but again, I'm going to be putting in some ramp in a moment. And so yeah, this one, it doesn't really build into our strategy too well, so I'm going to put this one aside. Meteor Golem, everyone knows what this does, 7 colorless, it's the 3/3. I do like this because of Terra, but again, I think it's just, we've got a lot of removal in this deck. I'd rather put some stuff in this deck that's gonna be more kind of cohesive with Celes, and so it's an okay one. Again, that I think it would fall into this bottom list down here where they're cut, but if I was kind of, if I was really short for cuts, then I would keep these ones. But yeah, anyways, so Meteor Golem's gonna go because if you want to hard cast this for 7 mana, it's just too much. 7 mana just to destroy 1 permanent is too much, and you can't rely on getting Terra down all the time. And so I think, yeah, obviously it's a good reanimator target, but it doesn't do much after that. So yeah, for me, it's gonna go. Go-Go, Mysterious Mime. It's a pretty cool card, but I think this is a commander you would want to build around separately. So this is a 3 colorless and a red. Legendary creature, wizard. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may have Go-Go become a copy of another target creature you control until the end of turn, except it's Go-Go Mysterious Mime. If you do, Go-Go and that creature get haste until the end of turn and attack this turn if able. And so it's a very cool card. Doesn't really fit in this deck at all. You can create, you create a copy of a creature that's a non-legendary, of course, but this doesn't make it non-legendary, so you couldn't copy Celes or Terra because you can only have 1 legendary creature that shares the same name on the battlefield at one single time. You can technically create a copy of Celes and sack the copy straight away, because then you'll be able to get this wheeling effect where you discard any number of cards and then draw that many cards plus 1. But yeah, for 4 mana, yeah, it's not the best. But again, this one could fall into that category because even that ability of continually wheeling is actually pretty cool. Now that I'm talking, right, so you can see where my brain's going. Actually, that's pretty good to work with Celes. So being able to wheel continuously on your combat, yeah, that's pretty cool, actually. Yeah, the only thing is here, though, is Go-Go doesn't have evasion, so it's a +2, right? So it's going to be a 4/2 on your combat on your turn. but someone can just chump block it and kill it, right? So unless you've got a way of giving it evasion, you're probably only going to get this effect once. And so what you've got to ask yourself is 4 mana enough to copy this effect once, and then pretty much Gogo's going to die, or, you know, hopefully it stays around and you get that effect twice. I think it's okay. Again, it's one of those things where I'll leave that one up to you. I'm going to cut it, but it makes it down into this list, which are the okay cards for this deck. They're not great, they're okay. And so I've got two more cuts. Summon Esper Valengamanda. Don't know how you pronounce that. I probably just butchered that completely. So it's 3 colorless and a red is one of the new Enchantment Sagas creatures. It's got flying and haste, 3/3. Exile an instant or sorcery card from each graveyard. Add, and then when it gets to 2, 3, and 4 lore counters, you add red for each lore counter on this saga. You may cast an instant or sorcery card, exile with this saga, and mana of any type can be spent to cast that spell. So this is pretty good. We're going to have lots of instants and sorceries for reanimating, but for 4 mana, you're waiting and you're hoping really that when you get this down, that there's an instant or sorcery in the graveyard at the time. And so when you cast this, there's nothing decent in people's graveyards, including your own, you're not getting any effect. And so it's a really difficult one to include, because you're very, very subject to how the board state is looking, and specifically the graveyard at that time when you're casting this. So this one sits up here. It's a cut. For me, it's just not reliable enough. And then we get to the last cut. So Umaro, Raging Yeti. It says 5 colorless and a red, so 6 mana in total. It's a legendary creature, Yeti Berserker. Trample, at the beginning of combat on your turn, you choose one at random. So no, it's at random, which is part of the reason I don't like it at all. It's a 6/6, which is a good body, of course. Other creatures you control get +3, +0, and gain trample until the end of the turn. Discard your hand and then draw 4 cards, or deal 5 damage to any target. So if you could choose one of these, then I would like it a bit more, but not being able to choose, I don't know I like it at all. So for 6 mana, and you can't reanimate this with Terra because it's 6 power, so it's not under 3 or less, sorry. You know, if you could choose discard your hand and then draw 4 cards, that is a good ability if you could choose it. But yeah, being at random, you're not going to reliably be able to get benefit out of this dependent on what the board state's looking like. So yeah, this is one that makes it into the cuts pile. So in total, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 removals. So we've got 15 spaces in this deck to enhance it and bring out the synergy of Celes. So just a reminder of what we want to do. We want to be able to get Celes's ability multiple times per turn if we can. We also want to be able to reanimate reliably, right? And we want card selection. Not only that, we want to be able to get some card draw because we've replaced some of the card draw. So we want to make sure that we can get some card draw going. If we can also double up some of the combat damage pieces, then that will also be very good. And so this leads me to the first kind of piece of inclusion here. So I wanted to add some ramp so that we can reliably get Celes out on turn 3/turn 4 and start to benefit from her ability as soon as possible. I also want to ramp because some of the other spells that we've got in here, if you're not reanimating, then you're going to want to be able to cast multiple things. You're also going to want to be able to just play your spells, also reanimation spells. So I've included 2 pieces of ramp. These are objectively terrible pieces of ramp, but these were the only ones that I had at hand. But again, they would be fun. So they give us the color of mana that we need. So you've got Orzhov Rune. So again, there are so many better pieces of ramp out there. Felwar Stone is one that's not in this deck that you can get. There's other 2 drops, but I think this one's okay, right? So being able to tap for white or black, so the Orzhov colors, is very good. And being able to, at a push, pay a white and a black into it, and then it become a lifelinking 1/4 is also pretty good, right? So in a push, it's okay. Then we've got Boros Cluestone. So again, it does a similar thing. So it's a white and a red that it taps for. And you can pay the Boros colors, so white and a red, sack it, and you can draw a card. So at a push, it is okay, right? So they're gonna come down, hopefully turn 3, and not hopefully turn, yeah. If you can get a, you know, the Soul Ring down on turn 1, you can hopefully get it out on turn 2. But I think they're just good mana, so they fix your color, and they also, you know, come down, and they're very cheap. They're like 20 cent or something to pick up. So if you want to pick up some really cheap ramp, these are really going to do you a good job. Next, we want to be able to reanimate as many times as we can per turn, and we want to be able to select what we're reanimating. So the good thing about discarding is that you're going to be able to get things into your hand. You're going to be able to discard your big targets, and then you're going to be able to reanimate them back. And so we've got 5 pieces of reanimation that we're putting into this deck. So the first one is Ever After. Ever After, you pay 6 mana into it, hence why I've added in more ramps so that we can get more mana into casting reanimator spells. So this one, return up to 2 target creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield. Each of those creatures is a black zombie in addition to its other colors and types, but Ever After's on the bottom of its owner's library. So the important thing here is Ever After is great because it doesn't go into your graveyard, it goes back into your library. So if you've got something to shuffle your library later, then you'll be able to actually, hopefully, get this back into your hand twice per game. Right, before we continue, I'm going to swig my tea here. Yorkshire Gold, the best tea in the world. All right, the next one is Unearth. So this is great because a lot of our spells, a lot of our creatures are mana value 3 or less. And so being able to bring one of them back for just a single black mana back into your hand is, back into your, gosh, what am I saying? Back from your graveyard to the battlefield is just incredibly powerful for one single black. So Unearth is brilliant. And it also has cycling. So at a push, if you want to be able to, so cycling is very good for this deck specifically because you can choose which card you discard from your hand and you can draw a card. So if you've got a big reanimator target and you want to put that into your graveyard and then you want to draw a card, hopefully drawing into a reanimation spell, then you can use the cycling ability. But most of the time you're going to want to use this to bring a creature card with mana value 3 or less back from the graveyard to the battlefield, such as Terra. So if someone kills Terra, then you can use Unearth for a single black, bring Terra back, and then boom, you're back on. This one's really, really good, and I think it's a really underrated card. Marshal's Anthem. So it's 2 colorless, white. It's an enchantment with multi-kicker. So multi-kicker, you can pay this as many times as you want if you have the mana available. So creatures you control get +1/+1. So it's an anthem, so you get +1/+1 to all of your creatures. And then when this enters the battlefield, return up to X target creature cards from your graveyard to the battlefield, where X is the number of times Marshal's Anthem was kicked. So you need to have a lot of mana to pump into this, right? So just off the bat, you want to be able to pay the 4, right? So if you just pay the 4, this is going to come down as an anthem for +1/+1. But if you have the mana open, then you want to pay the 1 and a white as many times as you can, and you can reanimate as many creatures as you can pay the multi-kicker cost. So you might be able to pay 6 into this if it's late game, and then you'll be able to get 3 creatures back, and they're +1/+1. And then you're going to so basically this is only going to trigger this once because 1 or more creatures are entering from the same effect, but it's going to give +1/+1 counters to each of your creatures. So in essence, you're going to get the +1/+1 anthem, and then they're all going to get +1/+1 from this. So they're going to basically have +2/+2 straight away when they hit the battlefield, which is just a bit nuts, really. So yeah, Marshal's Anthem's a really good one, particularly for the late game. Smile at Death. So this is a new card from Tarkir Dragonstorm. It's 3 colorless and a white. At the beginning of your upkeep, return up to 2 target creature cards with power 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. put a +1/+1 counter on each of those creatures. It's just really, really good. Being able to just choose each turn to be able to return up to 2 target creature cards with power 2 or less. It's just very, very good. And you put a +1/+1 counter on each of those creatures, and it's going to be triggering Celes. So these creatures are going to get +1/+1, and then they're going to get another +1/+1, and +1's going to go on each of your other creatures. Smile at Death is just a very, very good card. There's lots of targets in here that are power 2 or less, so you're going to be able to, at the very least, get 1 creature back per turn from this. So you pump 5 mana into it, and it's just going to do you work continuously turn after turn. And then one of the last Reanimator additions we put in here is Coiling Rebirth. So it's 3 colorless and a black, and you can choose to gift a card. So gift a card, basically you promise an opponent a card as a gift when you cast this spell. So basically, if you do, they draw a card after its other effects. So once this resolves, they draw a card. So it's a really good thing because gifting a card is a good way to be able to do some politics at the table. So you can choose one of your opponents and you say, right, would you like a card? If I give you a card, will you leave off of me for the next turn or something like that, right? So it's a really good way of being like, right, I'll give you something, you give me something in return. And then return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Then if the gift was promised and that creature isn't legendary, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it's a 1/1. So you're actually going to get 2 creatures. And so, yeah, it's absolutely nuts. Yeah, it's a very, very good card for 5 mana. You know, there's lots of non-legendary creatures in here that can be targets. I think a lot of them are legendary, but if you do happen to have that non-legendary creature that's in your graveyard that's a really, really good target, then this one, you actually get 2 copies of it onto the battlefield. So we've got 5 additions, which are reanimation kind of spells that are additions. And then we're going to move on to some other bits and pieces. So I've got a couple of things here. So one of the additions I've got is just more of an anthem / some protection. And so it is Flowering of the White Tree. So we've got lots of legendary creatures in this deck, and particularly Celes. Once people realize how good Celes is, they're going to be targeting Celes. And so being able to buff Celes up to give it +1/+2/+1 is very, very good. And ward 1 as well. So Celes is going to try and make your board state go like big. So you're not going to really be going wide with Celes. You're going to be getting creatures down and then making them go high. And so with this one, it's going to buff them immediately with an anthem. And if they're legendary, they're also going to get some protection with ward 1. So just a good include. I think it's just good for anything that has legendary matters themes within it. So one of the things that we also want to do is be able to get some immediate value back if someone kills off some of your creatures. And so Ratra Brick, I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, Rata Drabik of Urborg is a 2 colorless, white and a black. So Ozov, this is just an auto include, guys. This is just insane, does insane value for this deck. Vigilance, ward 2. Other zombies you control have vigilance, and whenever another legendary creature you control dies, create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it's not legendary, and it's 2/2 black zombie in addition to its other colors and types. And so this isn't going to do the reanimation side of Celes because it's not technically entering on from the graveyard because you're just creating a token of it. But lots of legendary creatures in this deck they're going to get targeted by your opponents, and so being able to just create a copy of them so that the ability stays around is absolutely insane. Things like Terra, if you've got this down, if Terra gets killed off, you just create a token copy of it, and then basically if you swing out with Terra then you can just pay 2 and reanimate Terra, the actual Terra from the graveyard, which is just insane. And then you'll be able to sacrifice the token copy of it, so you've got the actual Terra there. But anyways, so yeah, this is just a great include. I think it's very cheap, so yeah, definitely one to pick up. All right, on to the next. So what we want is to have some card selection, and so United Battlefront gives us that. So this is a new one from Tarkia as well. So it's 3 colorless and a white. Look at the top 7 cards of your library, put up to 2 non-creature, non-land permanent cards with mana value 3 or less from among them onto the battlefield. And so I think we want to be able to get some ramp reliably. This one gives us some ramp reliably. It also gets you to fetch up things like this, so flowering of the white tree. It's just good. There's lots of permanent cards that are mana value 3 or less in this deck that you can just fetch up with this, and you can select which one you want. 7 cards of your library is a lot of cards to look through, and then you can basically choose which one you want. So this gives you good card selection, and it's an include for me. Next, Conjurer's Closet. So if you don't know what Conjurer's Closet is, it's basically anything that has a enter the battlefield trigger. This will allow you to keep repeating that trigger again and again at your end steps. So this one is just brilliant with Celes because it'll allow you to wheel every single turn as long as Celes is around, of course. So at the beginning of your end step, you may exile target creature you control, then return that card to the battlefield under your control. And so basically, Celes is going to allow you to wheel and get card advantage. Conjurer's Closet is going to allow you to continuously do that. So you'll be able to do that once per turn. If it's the turn Celes comes down and you've already got Conjurer's Closet, then you're going to be able to do it twice in one turn, which is just an insane amount of card advantage. And so Conjurer's Closet is an auto include for me. And then we've got 3 more cards that we're going to include. Oh, sorry, 4 that we're going to include. And so, yeah, let's get into that. So, card advantage. On the fact that we're going to need card advantage, Merry is really, really good because it's only 2 power. And so, oh, sorry, what I didn't mention earlier as well is that Ratchabik, all of the creatures that I'm putting in here are 3 or below, so you can reanimate them with Terra. So Merry falls into that category because it's 2. So it has haste, has first strike as long as it's equipped. We don't have much equipment in here. There is things like swift foot boots and stuff like that, but we don't really care about that. What we care about is the second ability. So whenever you attack with Merry and another legendary creature, draw a card. So Merry is great because you're basically gonna get it down nice and early. It's a good reanimator target, and you're going to get some repeat card draw because Terra wants to attack. And so if you get Terra down, it's going to want to attack. There's also lots of other creatures that are going to be going tall, so you want to be swinging out with them. And so you're going to repeatedly be able to swing out with Merry. And so, yeah, and also it's going to come down for 2/2, but actually within like no time at all, you're going to end up with loads of +1/+1 counters on it and anthems. And so it's going to end up like a 6/6 within no time. And so, yeah, swinging out is going to be absolutely fine. Right, on to the last 3. We've got Sir Comrade. This is one of the only creatures, actually, in fact, this is the only creature that I've included that could not be reanimated with Terra, but is a really, really good reanimated target for one of these. So, Sir Comrade, it's 3 colorless, black, legendary creature, 5/4. Whenever another creature dies or a creature card is put into a graveyard from anywhere other than the graveyard, or a creature card leaves your graveyard, so Comrade the Grim deals 1 damage to each opponent. So just to say, this is any creature dies or is put into a graveyard, or a creature leaves your graveyard. And so basically, anytime your opponent's creatures dies, or our creatures dies, or anything that we mill into, so any creature gets milled into the graveyard, right? So we're going to be doing lots of milling. We're also going to be discarding. You're going to be pinging your opponent for 1 damage each time you do that. So if when Celes comes in, if you've got Sir Comrade and you've got 7 cards in your hand and you want to discard your whole hand, you can discard your whole hand, and if you've got 5 creatures, you're going to ping your opponents for 5 damage. It's insane, and it keeps racking up benefits because it's got a ability at the bottom as well, which is also fueling Celes's plan. So you can pay 1 in a black, and you can do this multiple times per turn. Each player mills a card, so that's 4 cards. There's a high probability that it's going to be at least 1 creature that's going to get milled, and so you're pinging damage to your opponents. But also, you're also going to be milling your own library, so you'll be able to hopefully fuel your reanimator targets. And so Comrade's just a great include. All right, And then we've got Drainer and Limvala. So it's a 1 colorless with Orzhov colors, so white, white, black. So 4 mana in total. Legendary creature, Vampire Angel, flying, vigilance, activated abilities of creatures your opponents control can't be activated. So it just completely shuts down your opponents. This will be targeted, but because this is a reanimator deck, you'll be able to bring it back as long as it's been destroyed and not exiled. And Drainer and Limvala has activated abilities of all creatures your opponents control, and you can spend mana of any mana as though they were mana of any color to activate those abilities. Just insane. Does so much benefit, and it's a cheap card that is gonna just continually give you benefit. You know, you can activate things like, I don't know, if your opponents have like well, it could be anything, right? It could be mana abilities. It's insane. Yeah, any activated ability. An activated ability is a thing that you tap it or you pay into it to activate the ability. And so something like Sir Comrade is an activated ability. And so your opponents are going to have loads of activated abilities. And so Drainer and Limvala just does a lot of work, and it's 3 mana, and so it can be reanimated with Terra. Okay, and then we get onto the last card, and to me, it's a very basic card, but actually this is one card which I think is an include into most decks where there's a large legendary theme, and it's Mirror of Galadriel. It just gives you a lot of card advantage, right? So we're going to want to have as many creatures as we can on the battlefield that are legendaries. And so for 2 mana, you're going to be able to reduce this by as many legendary creatures as you have. So Celes is legendary. A lot of the creatures that, actually in fact, every creature I've put in here is legendary. A lot of the creatures in this deck are legendary. If I just pull cards out, I'm sure you'll be able to see the, wait a minute, there we are, legendary. And so most creatures in here are legendary. And so there's a high probability that this is going to be reduced down to 0. So you can just tap it and scry 1 and then draw a card. So it's just great card advantage. You're going to want to get to your reanimator spells as quickly as possible so that you can reanimate some big targets onto the battlefield. Mirror of Galadriel does a lot of work, and it's like a 20p card. And so, yeah, just really, really good. So, in essence, right, is this the most powerful deck in the world? No. Could you do better includes? Yes, but these are some really, really good includes, and hopefully it gives you some light into how you can build Celes in a fun way that actually works for a play group that are at bracket 2/3, that are just really, really good, fun synergies that are going to just bring lots of cool interaction to the table. There's a couple of includes that you can add as well, which are very powerful includes, but these are more of the the game changers. And so you've got 2 that you could add in, but these are expensive ones. You've got Orcish Bowmasters, of course, just a very, very good reanimator target, and it's a 1/1. So for things like Smile at Death, it shuts your opponents down, and so it gives you time to build up. And so, yeah, just really, really good cards to include. Anyways, right, that's my Celes build. If you're interested in seeing some gameplay, let me know. But make sure you hit that sub button. Universes Beyond. We are here for all things Universes Beyond, as you can see. Anyways, I could go into a rant about how wonderful Magic is in the way that you can just merge different universes together. But anyways, this Universes Beyond. Make sure you hit that sub button, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.